So the next topic that we are having, that is the next blood vessel, that is capillary. In this video we will discuss about the detailed lecture of the capillary. As you guys all know, in the previous video I have discussed you guys about that the capillaries is having like one layer, that is endothelium. Okay, so what are capillaries? Basically the capillaries are like the arteries are like divided into the arterioles, then arterioles are divided into the capillaries. Likewise, veins are divided into venules, and venules are again divided into the capillaries. So capillaries is basically a network or of a blood. This is basically a blood vessel and having a network of vessels. Okay, so as you guys all know, the arteries were always taking the oxygenated blood from the heart to the body, and veins were taking the deoxygenated blood from the body to the heart. Now if you talk about the capillaries, so which kind of a blood does these blood vessels take? That is, they are having both blood, like both mixing of blood. Okay, so this capillaries basically work for the exchangement of gases or exchangement of materials in the between the interstitial fluid, which means the blood cells fluid, which the blood cells are like dipped into the interstitial fluid. So they basically, capillaries basically work for the exchangement of gases or materials. Okay, so this is thin in nature. This is thin just because they are having one layer, as compared to arteries and veins, they are having three layers. Okay, so they are basically, this is basically thin, and because of one layer, that is endothelium, but this is very strong. This is very strong. Okay, we are having two process, which is impermeable, and second one is the permeable. So what does it mean by the impermeable? Impermeable means that the things that is in the capillary that cannot move to the interstitial fluid. Okay, that is, which means that is impermeable. Likewise, the substance that is coming in the impermeable, like they cannot exchange, so that are blood protein, rbc, platelets. You will say that what about the this one, a white blood cell? So white blood cell basically, that is basically come out because of the small size. Okay, if we talk about the impermeable, so we are having the white blood cell, but they basically come out in the direct contact of the, you can say, the interstitial fluids, just because they are having a small size. If we talk about the permeable, as you guys all know, the opposite of the permeable means it can move outside to capillaries, and you can say that the exchangement can occur between the materials like gases, like carbon dioxide, oxygen. So that can be the water, enzyme, a hormone. Okay, respiratory gases like oxygen, carbon dioxide, nutrients. Okay, if we talk about the pressure that is in the capillaries, that is 1 mm of Hg into second. This is the blood flow in the capillary. Capillary is having no valve. Okay, there is no pulsation, like you can say that the artery. Okay, so if we talk about the function of the capillary, I have just told you just before like 2 minutes. I told you guys this is basically work for the exchangement of gases. So we can write here that capillaries, basically the function of the capillary is to for the exchangement of gases like nutrients, like capillary capillary blood to the interstitial, direct contact with the interstitial fluid. This is tissue fluid. Okay, so that gases basically occur by the capillary and the interstitial fluid. So like how the exchangement occur, like oxygen will move to interstitial fluid through blood. Okay, likewise that where there is like a urea is there, so the cells of the capillary will take from the interstitial fluid. Cells of the capillary will take from the interstitial fluid, like urea is there in the interstitial fluids of capillary will take. So the capillary is having both process, can is done by, like capillary is having the both process, diffusion, both diffusion, passive and active. If we talk about the passive, so passive is basically from the high concentration to low concentration. For example, that in capillaries the oxygen is more, level is more, and cell is having less. Okay, if we talk about the active, so you can take the active, that energy is required. So blood, um, in blood, blood and capillaries, that like the capillaries of the blood, like in capillaries we are having blood. So for example, their urea concentration is more, and cells or of the interstitial fluid is less. So they will get the active, the activation energy to exit out, and from direct come, like you can say that the to move through the cells into the interstitial fluid. So the basically the capillaries is done like doing like both process, diffusion like active and the passive. So when the, if we talk about the simple squamous epithelial cells which the endothelium is having, so when the size of these cells are like more, so the capillary basically become narrow, right? While likewise, if the cells is having like less size, so the capillaries basically get dilate. Okay, dilate. And if you talk about this, so this is controlled by the hormones, and if you talk about this, so this is basically controlled by the autonomic nervous system. Okay, so the organ that is that is in our body, which is liver. So in liver is basically a organ which is having the individual capillary, like every cell of the, as every cell of the, like liver is having individual capillary. This is the most like you can say that the one organ in our body that is having the individual capillaries for cells of liver, just because there are many metabolite reaction take place, like the catabolism and anabolism. So this is the metabolite organ where the reaction will basically take place. So because of the high metabolic reaction, the exchangement occurs between the cells and the capillary. So the liver is having the individual capillaries of the cells. So but there is an exception, that capillaries is having deoxygenated blood and oxygenated blood both. There is a mixing of blood that I told you in the like starting of the lecture. So if you talk about, so cap if you talk about one more point, that is capillary wall is having perforation. What is perforation? Basically perforation is basically small holes. Okay, with, so there is the perforation, but through which the blood do not come out. Okay, blood will not come out, but the exchangement of gases can occur. Exchangement of gases occur. Okay, like water, like nutrients, okay, gases. So that can be occur, but there will be not, the blood will not come out, there will be the exchangement of the gases. So this was about the capillaries. In the previous video we have discussed about the arteries, and today we have discussed about the capillaries. In the next video we will discuss about the veins, the last blood vessel. This was the second blood vessel. Okay, so this was the capillary.